Welcome to Films from the Phantom Zone, your podcast about failed and forgotten comic book movies, where we watch a forgotten superhero movie and decide, does this belong in the Phantom Zone or out and about for everybody to rewatch and remember fondly? But we are here again with another review, so we're not doing any of the things I just said.
Yeah.
Berto, what movie are we reviewing today that is currently out in theaters?
We are reviewing Shang-Chi and The Legend of the Ten Rings.
Only in theaters for the next 45 days. Actually, 45 days from like 5 days ago.
So like 40 days.
40 more days. And then I think it'll be on Disney+. Time code's in the description. We are going to do background first. We got a lot of characters to talk about. There's just a lot going on in this film.
Absolutely.
That requires a lot of background, I think. We're going to go through that. Then we're going to actually talk about the film without spoiling it. So spoiler-free talk before we actually start spoilers. So if you're listening now, you haven't seen the movie yet, that's fine. Just, if you don't want to ruin it for yourself, just stop talking. Stop listening when we start talking
just
spoilers.
Stop talking.
Yeah.
And get out of here.
And throw your phone out the window. Okay, so this movie, first of all, it's called Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which I thought was kind of odd because it's like the first movie for this character. And I'm just thinking it should have just been called Shang-Chi. You know what I'm talking about? Like there's a subtitle.
Yeah.
But it seems to me they really wanted to kind of connect with the Ten Rings and make these allusions to Iron Man.
Oh, absolutely.
So this is great because it gives us an opportunity to talk about Iron Man 3, the worst movie in the Marvel Universe.
There's many worse. Thor, The Dark World, Captain Marvel.
And how Iron Man 2 is way better. So Iron Man, the first movie in the MCU, right? In that when he's kidnapped by the terrorist organization called the Ten Rings.
Right.
Right. Now, in the comics, there is no terrorist organization called the Ten Rings. He's abducted by a different group of people.
Right.
Who I didn't look up. Do you know who those people are?
I don't remember.
Okay, cool. By calling the terrorist organization the Ten Rings, it's just an allusion to the Mandarin, which is the ultimate Iron Man villain that they didn't really want to do, right?
Correct. They wanted to allude to it, but they didn't want to commit to it.
Yeah, pretty much just putting it off. By Iron Man 3, they kind of come back to this point and decide to do the Mandarin, sort of, right?
Kind of. Yeah.
Now, again, if you don't know, if you haven't seen Iron Man 3, it's actually Aldrich Killian, who's a different character, who just creates this persona for the Mandarin, and he hires an actor, Trevor Slattery, and it's a twist that a lot of people don't like in that movie.
I was fine with that twist.
I like the twist a lot, actually, and I really like Trevor Slattery, and I like his depiction of the Mandarin. I bought into that villain up into that movie, and just because it's a role, that doesn't ruin it for me. I thought it was still...
Yeah, if anything,
it's still pretty good.
Trevor a little bit more of an impressive character.
Yeah. So, in order to kind of break this down, we have to talk about two different characters. The first one being Fu Manchu. Do you know Fu Manchu?
I know the stereotype.
Yeah, pretty much. So it's a character written by Sax Rohmer in the 1913 novel The Mystery of Dr. Fu Manchu. The character went on to be extensively featured in books, movies, radio, comic strips, comic books, and as most recently as 2007, he was portrayed by Christopher Lee 5 times in the 60s, most famously, and Nick Cage in Grindhouse.
Grindhouse. Oh, I remember that.
He's just in the fake trailers before the movie.
Yeah.
And it's a cheeky nod to Christopher Lee playing the character. Again, Christopher Lee, British actor, and he's playing a Chinese supervillain. So he's a character in mostly pulp novels, right? But again, like I just said, comic books, radio plays, the whole thing. Kind of like a Sherlock Holmes type where more popular than any one medium, right?
Right.
Chinese evil genius, known for his trademark mustache, product of, and also successful because of yellow peril, which is this xenophobic fear of Asian people invading Western culture that was prevalent during the last century. Became an archetype and inspired characters like the Mandarin, but also straight up was in Marvel in the 70s. In the comic Master of Kung Fu, which is Shang-Chi's book. As the father of Shang-Chi, there were licensing issues after, I guess, their rights expired to use Fu Manchu in the comic book.
Okay.
And that led to Marvel canceling the book. And then later it's retconned that Shang-Chi's father is a sorcerer named Zhang Zhu.
Zhang Zhu?
I don't know how. Look, by the way, there's a lot of Chinese names I do not know how to pronounce.
It's difficult to pronounce it when you haven't heard it. So
Yeah. In one universe, he's a Mandarin. I'm going to get into that too. Also, fun fact, he is one of the villains in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen alongside Professor Moriarty. The thing is, he wasn't in the movie.
Okay.
For, again, obvious reasons,
They
nobody
didn't
wants
want to do it.
Nobody wants to put this character in a movie again because it's a weird racist stereotype. So that's Fu Manchu, right? In the comics, we have the Mandarin, who's a different character. Introduced in 1964 in Tales of Suspense as an Iron Man villain, and he has the 10 rings, right?
Correct.
So the 10 rings is not a terrorist organization in the comic books. It is literally
10 rings.
10 rings that he wears. They all have different superpowers. I'm going to read through them real quick. Left pinky to right pinky. Ice Blast, Mento Intensifier. So it's like a psionic energy, makes you like
Control
psychic
people?
sort of, yeah. Create illusions, etc. Electroblast, Flame Blast, White Light, Matter Rearranger, Impact Beam, Vortex Beam, Disintegrator Beam, and Black Light. So obviously in the movie he doesn't have those kinds of 10 rings. He has 10 like bracelet-y rings.
Which I think translates better, honestly.
I would have preferred. I like it, but I see that they're like trying to distance themselves from
The problems of the comic book version of...
No, I think they're trying to distance themselves from Thanos.
Oh.
Who had...
Oh, with the...
We just saw him using 5 different powerful stones, each with their own different power.
Yeah, it's almost like the same thing.
And how he's like combining them in different ways. It's like, this is kind of the same thing, so I get that. And then Mandarin is also, I mean, if you kind of look at him, he is not literally Fu Manchu, but he is part of that kind of archetype influence.
Yeah,
right?
well, the older depictions of him, for sure, yeah.
Yeah. And even like newer depictions, every time like a Mandarin thing comes out, they try as hard as they can to like redo it better. Like, I don't know if you remember did you watch the Iron Man cartoon?
I've seen bits of it.
I've seen one episode. It's horrible. Did not age well. It probably wasn't good then either. In that, he's not even Chinese. He's just a regular guy who found like the alien rings, and then his skin turned green, and so he looks like an alien.
Okay.
But he's like not Chinese at all.
He's literally
So,
like an alien bad guy.
Yeah. And yeah. So like even then they're like already just like trying to distance themselves from this like Fu Manchu stereotype. But for the Iron Man 3 twist, now that we kind of went over Fu Manchu and the Mandarin, basically you have 3 options here, right? And that's why I understand why they did what they did. But you have 3 options. Either you put the comic on screen, and usually that's like what we're saying. We're like, yeah, just do that. Put the comic on screen. If you do that, you've basically put Fu Manchu back on screen. This is a racist stereotype and like this Asian villain, right? And this whole yellow peril thing. Number 2 you can do is you can whitewash the character, right? Which is sort of what they kind of did by like saying, okay, well, instead of making a racist caricature, we'll just make him white. And then it's not a problem anymore, right? We're not being racist. But then you kind of get into like, well, you change the role and you whitewash, right?
Which is what happened with the Ancient One in Doctor Strange.
That was a complaint of the Ancient One, but the Ancient One is also kind of a caricature when you look at that character.
Yeah, like a Asian mystic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they did what they thought was smart. It was like, oh, let's give it to a woman. Like, yeah, she's white.
I think that character worked really well, though.
And I love Tilda Swinton, and I think that's fine, you know. But again, they went with number 2, right? That's how they got around it. Or number 3, you try your best to do justice to the character at risk of, like, rewriting its origins.
Which will piss off a different sect of people.
Exactly. So it's a lose-lose-lose situation. And for Iron Man 3, I think what they went for was a combination of 2 and 3. Right, we're gonna put a guy up there, and you're gonna try your best to look like the Mandarin. Although we're also gonna whitewash it, right? Because they put Ben Kingsley in like a green robe, and he had the rings, and he had the beard,
and he does look threatening as hell.
Yeah, and you're right. He sells it. He does a great job. But then they had to rewrite the whole thing and say, well, we got to put a twist on it. He's just like an actor, a persona, or whatever. But had they actually casted an Asian in that role and done that, now you're getting into like, having an Asian supervillain against a white like protagonist.
Yeah.
And you get into this problem of like, okay, well, why is he the bad guy? Like, is this just yellow peril light? Like, what are we doing here? So a big selling point of this film, Shang-Chi, has been we're going to actually show the Mandarin.
Correct.
And that leads me to All Hail the King. Do you want to explain what All Hail the King is?
Yeah, it's something called a one-shot, and Marvel made a few of these, mostly during like phase 1 / early phase 2. And they're like little short films that tend to like, have like self-contained stories and stuff. Kind of like...
Mostly just for fun.
Honestly, yeah, mostly just for fun. This one, All Hail the King, though, actually had like ramifications in the MCU, I guess.
Yeah, because people were upset that they went with number 2 / number 3 on my list of the 3 things you can do when you have a racist character. And they wanted to see a Mandarin, like a real villain in that role, right?
Correct.
Yeah, in All Hail the King, basically he goes to jail. It's on Disney Plus now, actually. It's the only one shot on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
The rest are just on copies of DVDs that you have to track down, like we did the other day. Trevor Slattery, the actor, goes to jail and he's kidnapped by the Ten Rings organization because they're upset that he was taking the Mandarin's persona and his name.
Yeah.
And they take him away. It's really good. It's Marvel basically saying, we're going to do it, I guess, since you're upset. But it's too hard. We'll do it later.
Yeah. It was their way of telling them that, like, hey, this character that you've been waiting to see does exist in this universe. And he is going to be threatening, but it's not this guy.
Right.
It makes it seem like they're about to just kill Trevor off, too.
Yeah. I mean, they take him away, so...
Yeah, and this little short film, this one shot was made all the way back in 2014?
Yeah, so it was a year after... Yeah. Basically, as soon as people got upset, they're like, all right, we got
to do something
throw this in, yeah. So that's really good. Check it out. Okay, and then Shang-Chi, the character, debuted in Special Marvel Edition number 15. Great title for a book, right?
Special Marvel Edition.
Basically, it was a way of just kind of like doing new things.
Yeah.
The story's called The Hands of Shang-Chi, Master of Kung Fu, as Marvel had the copyrights to Dr. Fu Manchu. Shang-Chi was written as his son to be the hero, right? And most of Shang-Chi's villains at the time were supporting characters in the Fu Manchu books.
So this was just Marvel doing Fu Manchu.
Right. Yeah. Because Fu Manchu has like a protagonist, because he's always the villain. He has like a counter. A nemesis.
Antagonist.
Yeah, he has a nemesis. No, he is the antagonist. He has a nemesis.
He's the protagonist of his own story.
He's always the villain, though.
Okay.
The protagonist is actually, I didn't write it down. It's a guy who is always like trying to catch him.
Okay.
Yeah, so when Marvel kind of like licensed these rights to Dr. Fu Manchu, they're going to like make their own hero to fight him, and it's his son, Shang-Chi.
Which is even at the time like kind of a cool twist to throw in there.
Again, they're just kind of banking off this like Fu Manchu craze, right?
Yeah.
Even though it's already like, it's the early 70s.
Okay. Yeah. There's still a bit of that, what's it called? Yellow
peril.
Yellow peril.
It's also Vietnam. So.
Oh, yeah. This was definitely going on still.
Yeah. There's still plenty of yellow peril going on here. In the comics, like we said, he is Fu Manchu's son. But when, like I alluded to earlier, Ed Brubaker retconned it so that Shang-Chi's father is a character named Zhang Zhu, having taken the mantle of Fu Manchu temporarily. And that was because they had lost the rights to Fu Manchu. And also they may not want to have done it anymore. Again, he has no relation at this point to the Mandarin. But by 2015, in Secret Wars by Jonathan Hickman, another version of Zhang Zhu actually takes up the mantle of the Mandarin.
In his own universe.
In his own universe.
Secret Wars was a lot of universes like coming together and stuff.
Yeah, I think he technically belonged to the Ultimate Universe. He was kind of the end of that.
Oh, yeah, because that's the event that ended the Ultimate Universe.
Right,
okay.
Right. And I may be wrong, but I want to say it was either that version or a different version of Zhang Zhu, who is the Mandarin. So there's some precedent to this of making the Mandarin Shang-Chi's father. Yeah. And again, the Mandarin is sort of based on Fu Manchu anyway, so might as well just like
it all kind of like
combine it all together.
It all comes together in the end.
And within the context of the MCU, this works fantastically because it's a brand new story. It's a new character, new franchise.
Yep.
That piggybacks off a core concept in the MCU is who is the Mandarin.
From the beginning of the MCU, almost.
From Iron Man 1,
we see the 10 rings within the first 5 minutes of runtime.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That mystery has always been there. It's always been kind of behind the scenes, right? So that's all I have for the comic-y background history stuff. So let's just move on to talking about the movie. Okay, we're gonna do no spoilers for a bit, spoiler free, and then we'll do spoilers for people like, if people are listening and they haven't seen the movie yet. Put the spoilers at the end. Berto, don't fucking spoil anything.
I'll try not to.
Shang-Chi, you've seen it twice now.
I have.
Do you want to talk your overall thoughts? Before I start kind of breaking it down?
I really, really, really like this movie. It is a lot of fun to watch. The fight choreography is amazing. I think they did a really good job with as much story as they had to like kind of tell you pretty quickly. They did a pretty good job with that.
Yeah.
And as far as origin stories go in the MCU, I think this is one of the better ones for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, this is a character most moviegoers probably haven't heard of at all.
Yeah.
And
so you got a lot of praise.
I do. Like I said, I like this movie a lot. I loved it.
I think you said we got out of the theater, you're like one of your top MCUs.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think it's good. I think it's pretty good. I think it has a lot of flaws, and I don't know if those flaws I'm not sure how much they bother me, or if it's just kind of like me personal, Okay. Like if they just, I wanted to see it again, and I should have before we did this. I don't know if it's like me saying these are real flaws, that like this is something I don't think is very good in the movie, or is it something that I don't like, and that's something that we talk about a lot. We try to be as objective as we can, separating like things we think that are good and bad and things we just like or do not like, right?
Right.
Those are completely different metrics. But if we want to talk about what's good, unequivocally, like you cannot argue this, is the action.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, action is top-notch. Choreography is top-notch. Shang-Chi is the master of Kung Fu. It was in his title of the book, right?
Right.
He's supposed to be the best martial artist in the entire Marvel universe. So when this movie's announced, the promise that Kevin Feige was basically like selling us implicitly is this is going to be Marvel's first like Kung Fu movie. And if you're a fan of Kung Fu, then fucking good, because like
there's a lot to enjoy in this movie if you are.
On that selling point, it over-delivers, I think.
Yeah.
Like over-delivers, because a lot of times movies are sold to you as like, hey, we're going to do this and it's going to be kind of Kung Fu-y, and then it's kind of not.
Yeah. This is one of the better, if not one of the best Western-made Kung Fu movies.
Yeah. If I could compare Mulan was supposed to be like, hey, we're going to remake Mulan, and it's going to basically be like a Disney Kung Fu movie.
And there is none of that.
There is very little fighting in that movie.
Yep.
And they casted two of the best martial artists alive, Donnie Yen and Jet Li.
And they didn't do anything.
Jet Li doesn't fight at all, and Donnie Yen does a very impressive demonstration, but that's it.
Yep.
He doesn't fight anybody, he just does a demonstration.
He did more fighting in Rogue One.
Oh, yeah. That was, you want a Kung Fu Star Wars movie, there's a chunk of it in there, right? So I wanted a Kung Fu Marvel movie, and I got it. And for that, I'm very satisfied. The movie's choreographed by a man named Brad Allen. Remember at the end of the movie, we're like, oh, who's that?
In loving memory.
Yeah. An Australian martial artist and stunt designer who studied under Jackie Chan. He was part of Jackie Chan's stunt team.
Okay.
Only member who's not Chinese. And this film's dedicated to him because he passed, like, last month. So he just
like right before the movie released.
Yeah, right before the movie came out, and he's pretty young. He was like in his 40s. So that really sucks. Also, this is a mix. It's got a mix of a lot of forms of martial arts, including Kung Fu, as in Wushu, Tai Chi. They do some Krav Maga. They do some other things I was reading. I'm not really an expert in martial arts, but I thought that was very interesting. Do you want to talk about the actors?
Yeah.
Simu Liu.
Simu Liu? I think that's how you pronounce it.
I think that's how you say
it. I like them.
Yeah.
Honestly, like he has this like, I don't know if charisma is the right word. He seems like a very like relatable
I was gonna
guy.
say you literally took the word out of my mouth. I was gonna be like relatable.
Yeah.
He just seems kind of like one of us.
Like an everyman.
Yeah.
And that's not like putting him down in any way. Like,
no, he's a very handsome man. Like he should be a superstar. But for whatever reason, like he doesn't come off as like your Chris Evans.
He doesn't come off as an actor in a good way.
Robert Downey Jr. None of that. Like he just, and maybe because he's kind of a small actor.
Yeah, he's a fresh face in the grand scheme of things.
Did I send you the tweet that he sent? No, I retweeted it. I don't know if you saw it. You know that he used to be or at some point he did stock photography.
Stock photography?
Yeah. And he's super disappointed at how often he sees himself in it. And he's been sharing all these pictures, and he just tweeted a picture of a stock photography, because the thing is, people are also like finding them and posting them or whatever.
Right.
A stock photo of him with some coworkers, and he's smiling, pointing at a computer screen, and he's like, me laughing at all the people who thought this movie was gonna flop.
That's pretty funny.
There's one of him as like a construction worker. There's one of him as like in a board meeting. So he's a pretty small actor, mostly done TV stuff. And he tweeted Marvel a few years ago when this movie was like announced.
I actually remember that. And I was like, who's this guy?
Yeah, and he tweeted, it was like, Marvel, call me. Like, Shang-Chi, like, let's do this. And maybe it's like wish fulfillment, but like, obviously he got the role.
He got the role, and honestly, like, he killed it.
Yeah, apparently they weren't considering many other actors. Like, they had a small list. I mean, they didn't really come out and say it or whatever, but like, he landed it pretty quickly, apparently.
Well, I'm sure him, like, openly being interested in it kind of caught their attention a little bit, too.
Yeah, he had already studied some martial arts, like, for fun.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, he learned a lot more for this.
Right.
For this
I know
role,
he had,
but...
like, actual training done for this movie.
Yeah, and you know what? It kind of helps that you get someone who wants to do the training. You know what I mean? Because it seems like that's kind of the biggest part of this role, is that he needs to kind of do the kung fu, right?
Yeah.
You don't want a situation like
Iron Fist?
Iron Fist, yeah.
There was a lot of issues, I think, with multiple things with that show, though.
You know, you see, not that long ago, like the stunt choreographer basically said, like,
the actor didn't want to do the training.
Yeah. He implied it very strongly that, like, the actor didn't, I forget the guy's name, that he just didn't want to. Finn Jones, yeah, thank you. He basically just didn't want to train. However, and it shows in the show, the girl who plays Colleen Wing,
yes,
she went above and beyond in the training. And she fucking kills it.
That show.
And she's the best part of that show, is watching her do her stunts.
Her and
her
all
fights.
the drama of the Meacham family.
You don't want to repeat of that where you say this guy's the best martial artist, and then he doesn't do very much
They don't,
martial
or you don't
arts.
show it.
Or
it's just implied that he's good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah. Otherwise, I liked him. I'm going to get into it more when we talk spoilers, but...
Yeah, no, he was great. I'm a fan.
Yeah. Awkwafina. She's a stand-up comedian, and she's been super popular in the last, like, 2 years.
Yes.
She's in everything now. And so when I found out she was going to be in this movie, I was a little afraid that she was just going to be herself and like every other role. Because she's a stand-up comedian turned actor. And a lot of times those people are they're just them in the movie.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I was sold on her character.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like I said, I was afraid she was going to be playing herself, and she is, in fairness. But it works. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
I like her. She was like just in Raya. She was in Raya in the last Raya. She was the dragon.
She was in Crazy Rich Asians.
Crazy Rich Asians. It's like, I was just afraid if it was going to be kind of like Kevin Hart, where
he's just Kevin Hart.
He's just Kevin Hart in every single fucking movie he's in. So it's like, what's kind of the point? Like, I like Kevin Hart a lot. I think he's funny, but like, if I'm going to have more than one movie with Kevin Hart, and then there's just Kevin Hart movies.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know. But no, Awkwafina worked for me.
She was like kind of herself in the sense of like, you know, she was just like funny, sassy, like sarcastic.
Yeah.
But in the context of this movie, it works because she plays off of Simu very well.
Yeah.
Like, they play off of each other very well.
Really,
There's really good chemistry there.
They really did. Yeah, I totally buy it. I think they really got along and they became friends because he is in her TV show now.
Oh.
She has a show called Awkwafina is Nora from Queens. She plays like a fictionalized version of herself.
Okay.
And like her story or whatever, because her name is Nora and she's from Queens.
I think she picked the name Awkwafina because it was like funny or something. Or she like saw a bottle of water. I remember hearing the story about it and I was like, well, that's kind of dumb. And then she mentioned about how it was kind of dumb. We were in agreement on that, so...
Tony Leung. He plays Zhu Wenwu, aka the Mandarin.
He was amazing.
He's a prolific Hong Kong actor.
Okay.
Yeah. He was in Lust Caution.
Have not seen that.
Among a bunch of other things. That's Ang Lee's very sexy movie that he made.
Okay.
Meaning I've seen that man's penis because I saw that movie in
Nice.
college. My friend was like, hey, they're playing the NC-17 version of Lust Caution on campus as like an art thing. You want to go see it? I was like, yeah, sure, let's go see a weird, awkward movie with too much sex in it.
No, but every time he was on the screen, I feel like he kind of like stole the show.
He was good.
Very good antagonist to the movie as well.
Yeah. without spoiling anything, they really do a good job with the villain.
Yes, there's a surprising amount of depth to him.
Yeah, it doesn't just, and I'm gonna get more into it in spoilers. It doesn't just make Iron Man 3 a little bit better. It really justifies that decision that they made then, now. You know what I mean? Because like looking back at it retroactively, you're like, yeah, they made the right call. And before we saw this movie, you know, we could have debated it, of whether what they could have done and what of those three options that I listed they could have done better. But like at the end of the day, like I don't believe they could have done anything better. And this makes, like, his portrayal in this movie makes that better. I think it makes him at least very appropriate. I thought he was amazing. And then I don't know how to say her name.
Oh yeah, that's difficult.
Mengher Zhang. She plays Xiling, and it's the sister.
Okay.
She is an amalgamation of two characters. Zhen Baolu, who is the evil daughter of Zhen Zhu, and that is the renamed Fu Manchu. And then also a new character called Sister Dagger.
Sister Dagger.
Yeah. Sister Dagger is part of like 5 villains, and they all are named after their weapons. There's brother something, there's sister something else.
Oh, okay.
It sounds less weird in context, I guess.
Yeah.
So they basically took the daughter character, so the daughter of Fu Manchu, who is from the books also, and then mixed her with like the attributes of Sister Dagger, including like her look and her weapon.
All right.
Yeah.
She was pretty badass. I don't think she had as much charisma or as much of a presence on screen as the others, but she was still good.
Yeah, no, I really liked her. I could have sworn I've seen her in something else. She looked so familiar, and then I looked her up, and I'm like, I've never seen her in anything else. That's kind of all I've got here, spoiler free. I want to talk a little bit more about the flaws that bother me a little bit, but I don't want to spoil anything. It's kind of difficult, I guess. But before we move on, though, like I said, I think it's pretty good. I really did like it, but there's a couple story things. There's some weird effects that kind of I thought were strange, and there's a character thing. So it's like I can dance around it for a bit, but I don't really think I can
all, like,
do
plot
it.
related.
Yeah, well, sorta. So I guess that's all I got for spoiler free. I guess I couldn't do it. But you really liked it.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to watch it again. I liked it, but I don't think I liked it as much as you did. And I think I liked Black Widow a little bit more. All right, let's get into the spoilers, the nitty gritty, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. From here on in, we're gonna spoil the movie. It's gonna make it a little bit easier to talk about.
Yeah.
So if you have not seen it, stop listening, or I guess if you don't care. So watch the movie first. So first and foremost, I think, the Ballad of Trevor Slattery continues.
Yes. And he's clean now.
I like how he's zen this time around, because he was very
eccentric,
very quick-witted, kind of like all over the place.
Yeah.
Because I guess the drugs. Like he couldn't finish a sentence before.
Right.
You know, and now he's very like calm and he speaks very slowly.
He's almost like a person now.
I mean, I guess
he's still a little bit eccentric and like a little weird, but like he's much more normal in comparison.
Yeah. I kind of wish that I get it. I kind of wish that they hadn't have released All Hail the King the week this movie came out, because all it told me was Trevor Slattery's in this movie.
Yeah.
And it kind of like took the surprise out. But I'd be disappointed if he wasn't, because if you watch All Hail the King, that's what it sets up. Yep. I mean, it doesn't really. They could have said
they killed him.
They killed him. He's dead. Yeah, exactly.
Because at first there's a conversation at the dinner table where Wenwu explains basically the plot of Iron Man 3. Mm-hmm. And they could have just ended it at that, with that being the reference. Because he even says that his name isn't the Mandarin.
Yeah, I'm glad. Okay, so you brought that up because I want to talk about that. But the only other thing, I kind of wish he had done an ole 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 when he was teaching the soccer,
because he did that in Iron Man 3 and he did it in All Hail the King. So yeah, I feel like that's sort of a missed opportunity.
Yeah, well, they went with the offsides joke.
Yeah, which is still good.
But like, score a goal and then have him kind of dance and sing or whatever. Yeah. That'd have been fun. But yeah, the Mandarin. I'm glad you brought that up, because bravo. Like, great character, great motivations.
Absolutely.
So sympathetic. And what I was talking about when we were talking spoilers free, this solidifies and justifies the twist in Iron Man 3.
Yeah. It's almost like, I can't speak for everybody, but it's almost like they fixed the problems that people had with that twist.
And I'm sure there's people that are still not happy about it.
No.
But no, you can't please anybody, and fuck those people. But like we said, you had 3 options. You could either put it on screen and have it be racist. You could whitewash it, or you can kind of rewrite the character and have him be Asian. And they did a combination of 2 and 3, you know?
Yep.
And going back, like, after this, I'm like, yeah, what else are you going to do? You can't put the character to life and not have it be a racist character.
No.
You just can't do that.
And so in this movie, they went hard with the 3. With the, doing justice to the character in their own way.
The reason this one works out, I think, is because this is a completely Asian story.
Oh, absolutely.
The hero is Asian, and it is just as much about, like, them as people as, like, it is about their culture, and it's just all in all, like, an Asian story. And if you're going to have an Asian villain, you can't make him the villain of, like, your white poster boy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It becomes problematic. And I'm not saying you can't ever, ever, ever have an Asian villain, but, like,
it works.
Right now, it's not the time right now.
And it works better this way, honestly. But to your point, by making this a mostly original take on the Mandarin, because this isn't what he is in the comic books, like, at all, almost. What this movie is doing is almost like a meta commentary on the Mandarin in comics and what they did with Iron Man 3, I think. Because, again, Aldrich Killian and Trevor Slattery take his persona and they make it into a Fu Manchu, like, well, I mean, not Fu Manchu, not Fu Manchu anymore, but it's still kind of like a caricature. It's still like this very...
It's very racially fueled.
Well, in Trevor Slattery's words, he said a
very
unflattering depiction of your father.
Yep.
And now we get to see kind of the truth behind that depiction, right?
Yeah.
And what Wenwu said, he says that he was offended by Trevor, and him being offended by, like, Trevor's
portrayal
of him, thank you, is how real Chinese people feel about Fu Manchu and the Mandarin.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, like, this movie is just saying, like, yeah, what Iron Man 3 did and what Trevor Slattery did is basically what, you know, those novels did and the comics did to Fu Manchu to poorly depict Asian people as, like, supervillains trying to ruin their way of life, right?
And this was even mentioned, like, 7 years ago in All Hail the King when the Ten Rings agent is talking to Trevor and he's like, my master's, like, very upset with you.
Right.
Because of Iron Man 3.
Yeah. So, on the whole Trevor Slattery thing real quick, I never understood, where's that persona? Where's he from? Is he American?
Unclear.
Yeah. I never got what, like, I like it. I like the whole...
I think it's just supposed to be vague.
You'll never see me coming.
Just a vague foreign threat, basically.
But he has an American accent.
Sort of.
And is it an American accent? Like,
I don't think it's American.
It is
Who
American.
Talks like that.
That's the thing. It is an American accent, but it almost sounds and plays like an American accent as taught to someone who's not American.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
Or, like, because it's not, you can't pinpoint it to any one location or anything like that.
Not in America, at least.
Tony Stark mentions sounds like a Baptist preacher. Apparently, so Ben Kingsley based the whole performance around that line in the script. Because that was in the script. He read that Tony Stark says, talks like a Baptist preacher, and he ran with that.
Which...
But even then...
Maybe what a foreigner would think a Baptist preacher would sound like.
Or
like a cult leader.
Yeah, but here's the other thing, too, is he speaks with hard R's. And that's a uniquely American thing.
Ready for another lesson.
America. Because the hard R is incredibly difficult to do. It's not natural linguistically.
Yeah.
There's like one other dialect of a language somewhere in the world, I heard, that does a hard R, like that R sound. Other than us. No other language does that because it's unnatural. You have to move, the way you move your tongue is very weird.
It's almost like you're growling.
Yeah, and that's why, like, kids can't do it. Like, you don't develop...
Yeah, a lot of kids will say, like, instead of girl, they'll say, like, ghoul.
Yeah, like, ghoul.
Yeah.
They just can't do it because their mouths haven't developed.
You have to learn... One, your mouths have to develop, and two, you have to actually learn how to do it.
It takes a long time.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, acting American is hard.
Yeah.
I mean, Ben Kingsley does it. He's British. He's British/Indian.
A lot of British people that do American accents, though, it's always Southern.
Might be easier somehow. I don't know. It was just always kind of like a mystery for me, like, what? And I guess it works. Like, it works in that in the context of that film. that like here's the Mandarin being like a crazy threat. They don't know what his motivations are. They don't know where he is in the world. They don't know where he's from.
Like it's a mystery.
He looks like he's kind of from the Middle East, but he has like this strange American-ish accent. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Always kind of like, I like it. Is my point.
Yeah, no, it's good. It did what it was supposed to do in the movie, which was basically scare the shit out of America.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's one of the best parts of Iron Man 3 because that works.
Yeah.
Like, this is around the time of ISIS.
Yeah, no,
You know?
that in itself almost felt like a commentary.
Oh, yeah. Actually, now that you mention
Iron Man 3 is a good movie.
No, it's got so many little plot problems that drive me insane. Like, just, I was going to argue about this earlier, but before we even started all this stuff, but just little things like the suit makes it from Tennessee to Miami in like a minute, like in 30 seconds.
It wasn't that
Yep,
quick.
it was. And they make note of it. So they double down because at one point they ask that one side character, he's like, hey, how far is it from here to Tennessee? And
That's
he goes
true.
like, oh, it's like 1,000 so many miles or whatever, or 800 miles.
Yeah, and he's good like that.
Oh yeah, I'm just good like that. Like, okay, so you're bringing attention to the fact that this thing is going supersonic.
Doesn't he go supersonic while he's flying?
Yeah, he goes like Mach whatever, but like you have to be in a blink of an eye to
There's
get
also
from...
not a person in the suit, so it can go that fast without hurting anybody.
Not to mention when that suit, because it's all locked up, the little kid, Keener, he throws acid at the lock. Why?
I guess he couldn't just unlock it.
That's his house. That's his...
less of a plot hole, though, and more of a why'd he do that?
Where'd he get it from? Why did he have it?
Maybe Tony gave it to him to fight the bullies.
No,
which is a problem in itself that he's giving this kid acid.
Yeah, because the first one was non-lethal. Anyway, I can talk about Iron Man 3 for hours and all of the little mini plot holes. I'm not going to call them full-on plot holes. They're little kind of plot question marks. I mean, you go, but wait a second. And then my problem is if it was just one or two, it wouldn't be a big deal. There's 30 of them. You know what I mean? The movie is riddled with them to the point where I'm like, then why'd you write this movie this way?
I think it's one of the most fun MCU movies ever.
I disagree. Anyway, we're talking about Wenwu. I love not just, how they kind of fixed the Mandarin problem here, is that they also made him like a great character in and of itself.
Yes.
Like, he has strong motivations. You believe him. You sympathize with him. A lot of the movie, I'm just like, honestly, like, I hope they all kind of figure it out and get together and play some more DDR.
Yeah, like, I don't want him to get killed.
Yeah, like, I want them to all be happy. I was like, maybe this will work out.
Yeah, especially, like, they show flashbacks when he gave up the rings and, like, had a family and was being, like, a genuinely good father and family man.
Yeah, sure, they showed us him murdering a bunch of people, too, but... let bygones be bygones. Let's all work it out.
Right. Well, it was the whole, like, he was legitimately trying to change.
Yeah. So, on the topic of the rings, we sort of alluded to it, but again, I didn't want to talk too much about it. You like them being, like, these more bracelet-y things?
I do. Honestly, I think it translates really well to screen.
Yeah.
It looks cool. The power that they have themselves seems kind of vague, but based on a later scene, I think that's going to be explored more.
Yeah, one of my problems with it is that they don't explain the rings at all. Because they do a fair amount of, like, backstory.
Right.
I do really like his ancient look with the long hair and the robes.
Oh, yeah. Back in, like, the whatever century it was.
Yeah, like 2 centuries prior or whatever. He says he's lived 10 lifetimes or whatever.
Yeah, it's stated that he had the rings for, like, 1,000 years or so.
Sure. I think that was kind of a nod of like, this is what you want, right? This is the Mandarin you want.
Yeah.
It's tasteful.
Yep.
But he's a normal man. He's modernized. He's wearing suits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Rolls up the sleeves.
Well,
there goes his bracelets.
Part of why I think they don't explain the rings is because I don't even think the characters know anything about them.
Yeah. So that was the problem I had. What I'm getting to is what you said is that there's a post-credit scene where the origin of the rings are a mystery in and of itself.
Right.
That are going to be explored in a later time.
And it seems like it's a part of something bigger.
Maybe, yeah. A lot of
like
people
maybe a crossover event of some kind.
A lot of people are saying wishful thinking. People are saying like Galactus.
I don't think it's Galactus.
You know why? Because since they're bracelets instead of rings, people are like, oh well, they're rings and they fit on something's finger.
Yeah.
So
here's the thing though, like in the comics the rings are alien, I believe.
They are alien. Fin Fang Foom.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been reading. A lot of people think like there's supposedly a beacon in these rings sending a message that it might be sending something to Fin Fang Foom.
That'd be strange.
It'd be weird.
I'm not against it. Like, if they could fix the Mandarin, they can fix Fin Fang Foom.
Yep.
One of the worst names for any character. Who, if you don't know, he's sort of a dragon, but he's actually an alien. He just looks like what we think of our folklore dragons.
He doesn't he kind of look like the Dragon Ball Z dragon?
He looks like the muscular-y one, not the serpenty one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he's the Namekian one.
The Namekian dragon?
Yeah, because he has like a normal torso. He's got big fucking arms.
Yeah.
But then he's also a dragon. He's got like a big dragon head.
Yeah.
That's what Fin Fang Foom looks like. So on the rings thing, like, I'm mixed on it. Because on the one hand, I'm not one of the people that I'm like, oh, I wanted to see the real Mandarin on screen. I wanted the 10 rings. I want him to be like a sorcerer, blah, blah, blah. But he kind of is a sorcerer, you know.
In a way.
The Mandarin. And so, like I said, I'm mixed. Because on the one hand, that would work really well if he was fighting Iron Man. Because he is an opposite to Iron Man. And Iron Man's technology and guns and blasters and whatever. And he has fucking magic.
Space magic.
Yeah. So how do you compete with that? Like, you know, like, that's very interesting to watch. Whereas if he's fighting Shang-Chi, then like it kind of works better that it's more of a weapon. You know, like a much more high-techy like kung fu weapon.
Yeah.
You know, like it basically, like, he can punch really hard, he can throw them, they come back to him, he can use them to kind of fly, he blasts off with them and whatever. Something that I do like about them though is that they kept the sentient nature of them, because the 10 rings are sentient and they could communicate with each other, and apparently they make fun of one of the rings for not being as cool as the other ones. Like in the comics. Like they gang up on it.
Yeah.
So in this, like, you know, they are dark in nature and they want Wenwu to do the dark thing and like unlock like the evil spirits or whatever.
Right.
And maybe they're out for self-perseverance. Maybe it's kind of like the One Ring, where it'll tell you whatever it wants in order to get back to the Dark Lord.
Okay. Was it the rings talking to him, though, or was it the creature talking to him because he had the rings?
I thought it was the rings talking to him.
I don't know if it's like super clear.
You watched it twice, you tell me.
They mentioned that the beast behind the dark gate knows that the rings are the only thing that can free it.
Oh.
I'm not sure if the rings themselves were talking, though. Like you said, like, the rings themselves aren't really... We don't know a lot about them because nobody in the universe knows a lot about them yet either.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's intentional because they're clearly setting something up.
Yeah.
And because of that, I'm okay with... Like, I'm cool with, like, a slow burn on revealing things.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing is, like, now that they belong to Shang-Chi, it's like, if he has them now, I'm glad that they're not super magic-y. Because he's not a magic-y character. He's a kung fu character.
He's gonna use them in a more practical way. I
exactly.
feel like.
And so, like, I'm happy because I don't want to see Shang-Chi not doing kung fu. That is his premise.
Yep.
It's like saying, like, oh, I'm going to give him an Iron Man suit. Why? That's not who he is.
I mean, even Wenwu used it as, like, kung fu weapons for the most part.
That's what I'm saying. It's more like an elevated kind of kung fu weapon.
Yep.
You know,
and it makes you immortal.
That too. But it's like, you know, using, you know, like the dagger ropes. There's a word, rope dagger. That's what it's called.
Rope dagger, yeah.
Yeah. Like using a rope dagger or like the bow staff or a sword or whatever, it's just like 10 times better than any of those things.
Yeah.
You know, he incorporates it into his fighting style and his martial arts.
Yep. I do like that really kind of brutal scene that we see like in the reflection when Wenwu's just like killing all those people in the little poker hall.
That was really good.
And you see him like lift up somebody with the rings while the other guy's shooting at him, and he's just using the body as a shield.
That was pretty cool. I like how he used it as a shield at one point too. Like he lifts his arm and they like circled around him or something. They like blocked a bunch of bullets.
At the beginning of the movie, he uses it to just block a bunch of arrows shooting down on him.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So yeah,
pretty cool.
And I noticed like during like the final fight that when Shang-Chi had him, he was using them as kind of like platforms while he was like kind of like hopping across like the sky.
I didn't know.
Like he would like shoot the rings and they would like elevate and he'd like hop on the rings.
Oh, wow.
Which I thought was pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. I didn't notice that. I have to see it again. So, I feel like now I can talk about the things I don't like. The third act of this movie is fucking kaijus. I was a little unpleasantly surprised by that, I think. It's not something I saw coming, and I wasn't pleasantly surprised. You know what I mean?
I liked it.
I don't know. Like, it made me think of, like, I was like, what other movie had, like, a third act that didn't seem like it belonged in the film at all? And I could think of like Aquaman, a movie that you hate.
I don't like Aqua. I don't like the whole movie though.
It's like kind of a road trip with these like two characters, basically.
And
then
it turns
at the
into a
end,
grand battle.
it turns into this huge epic like ocean battle. Yeah. It's like Lord of the Rings all of a sudden. And you're like, what the fuck is happening? But there was something kind of fun about it where I was like, I'm down for it, even though we jumped into a different movie. And this one I'm like, why are we riding dragons and fighting like huge flying demons? And
The movie was building towards that the entire last like hour.
But was it though?
Yes.
Okay, because see, it introduced some mystical elements early on. Sure.
Right.
And then they ended up halfway through you meet what's his name? The little creature. Little Trevor's buddy. Morris. You meet Morris and then some other mystical creatures.
And then they explain the Dark Gate and the giant creature behind it that steals people's souls.
But my point is, 2/3 of this movie is very, like, grounded, hand-to-hand combat. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, like, human characters fighting with one another. And then it skips to riding giant dragons.
Yeah, but I mean, it takes its time to get there. I thought it did.
No, man. I was just like, I'm watching, I'm like, is this how the movie's going to end? Like, is this what we're doing here? Like, what are we doing here?
And it's about damn time they introduced something, like, fantastical like this to the MCU.
What do you mean? Have you seen Doctor Strange?
Fantastical in the sense of, like, mythology type shit that isn't, like, alien creatures.
Look, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying, like, this movie was sold as a very kind of grounded concept.
There's a dragon in the trailer.
There's not a dragon in the trailer. There's those little lion things.
You see the dragon in the water in the trailer.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I saw the little lion things. I'm like, oh, cool. Ancient lions. I don't know. I thought it was just a super abrupt. So, like, if you're watching Black Widow, for example, first act, Black Widow doing her Black Widow super spy stuff. Second act, she's finding the Red Room or whatever. If in the beginning of the third act, Tony Stark shows up, he's like, hey, I'm going to solve your problems. Take this Iron Man suit. And she hops in the Iron Man suit and just blows everybody up. You'd be like, what is happening? This isn't a Black Widow movie anymore.
Fair comparison.
I just feel like the first act of this movie is they're in San Francisco and they have that great fight scene on the train.
Bus.
It is very hand to hand. And yeah, there is a character, there's Razor Fist, who has... Shout out to Razor Fist because you only know his name because they steal his car, which is the most gaudy thing and has his name plastered all over it.
That's my car.
Yeah, no shit. Who has like a laser sword basically on his arm. Sure. Like little things like that. I'm like, yeah, that's all that's the Marvel universe or whatever. But then second act, they go to McCall and it's more of that kind of like hand to hand, very kung fu, very grounded, real stunts.
They start introducing like more of the like.
Yeah, Abomination and
Abomination,
sure.
Wong. You see an Extremis guy fighting. Like it's a bit more.
Was there an Extremis guy?
There was an Extremis guy. There was a Black Widow there. There were a lot.
Oh my god. See, this is why I had to see it twice. I had to go see it with you again. But then third act, it's just like dragons fighting. Do you see what I'm saying?
I think it builds up and the dragon is even mentioned in the beginning of the movie by his mother.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean we have to see it. And that's the other thing. It's like...
That was the issue everyone had with Iron Fist, was that they mentioned the dragon, they never showed it.
Yeah, but I was also kind of kidding. Like, because here's the thing. I don't feel like it has to be all the time a Chekhov's dragon. Like, just because they mention it doesn't mean that you have to see it. That almost makes it too predictable. I honestly wanted them to close the gate without seeing the creature. I was like... Just be like, yeah, we saved the day, and we don't have to see that giant creature. Because what like, it doesn't, you know what, like, I don't know.
I think that would have been boring. I'm like, oh, I stopped you, Dad, and then they're done.
Well, that's my point. I wanted the final conflict to, story-wise, connect to the rest of the conflict, which is the father-son conflict. I got tired of saying conflict too much. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, that's the setup, is that this is going to lead to a fight between Shang-Chi and Wenwu.
And they had that fight.
They have okay, they do. But it's just like, there's so much other CGI shit going around it that I'm like...
And then when Wenwu realizes the error of his ways, he gives his power to his son, allows himself to die. He saves his son first.
Well, I do like his redemption arc because you can't save him.
Yeah.
It's the Darth Vader problem. He did too many horrible things.
He has to die.
The only way you can save the character, you can redeem the character, is that he sees, like you said, sees the error.
He dies doing something heroic.
But then he dies. Exactly. Yeah. He has to die.
No, he can't live happily ever after. It's too late for him.
It's too late for you, man. Sorry. Like I said, I thought it was gonna be very hand to hand the whole time, and then they're at the gates of hell very abruptly, is all I'm saying. But although, and I'm mixed on those things because like at the same time, like yeah, they did fight, and they're fighting with the rings. Even with the rings, it's still very martial arty and very kung fu like. Although I kind of didn't understand why the rings just suddenly like change allegiance.
Yeah, that was a little. It's almost like he took control of them for a second.
Because they change colors.
Right. They also change color. But again, we don't know how the rings work yet.
That's my assumption that they're going to... I don't even need a full explanation, but that they will get to
like,
that
allude to it or something.
Yeah, because at one point he just takes 5 of them.
And
and one was like, fuck, I only have 5 left. And he's fighting with those 5, and then he gets all 10, and they're circling around him like an atom. It was a very cool visual, but...
I'm wondering if it has something to do with the martial arts that he learned from his aunt a little bit.
Yeah, but the rings had been exposed to that before. Well, like the mom.
She took control of the rings at one point too, remember? She like held them and then like threw them at him.
Yeah, I guess you're right. All right, so moving on from that. My other complaint is I feel like this movie doesn't have enough Shang-Chi in it. This is a common complaint for me and for us is like we see movies that were like not enough of the hero. I mean, mostly Batman.
I think it's mostly Batman.
Yeah, there was a couple other ones we said, but like I kind of want the star to be the star. I don't think that's asking too
Cowboys
much.
and Aliens,
huh?
Cowboys and Aliens did that too.
You're right.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of want the star to be the star, and I felt like this movie has a lot of other characters speaking to Shang-Chi, and him just kind of listening.
I kind of feel like the main character was actually Wenwu.
Yeah, and even Awkwafina.
She had a lot of character development, actually.
She had a lot to do. We spent a lot of time with her, and it's fun because she's good. And we spent a lot of time with the Mandarin, which is also good because it makes him a good villain. But here's an example. The main theme of this movie seems to be that, like, you need to find your purpose and dedicate yourself to that in order to succeed. You can't just pussyfoot around for your whole life, right? But that theme, which applies to both Shang-Chi and Awkwafina's character, what's her name? Katie. Seems to at least be exemplified better in Katie within the context of the film. That's
right.
Her character development. That's her arc.
Yeah.
You know, because she's
undecided on what she wants to do in life, and she's just kind of stuck in a rut.
Yeah. And she even admits it.
Commit to anything.
She's like, well, why waste my time if I'm not whatever? I'm just going to try everything and just whatever. And then that lady's like,
you're going to start shooting.
Yeah. Well, she says, like, you need to point the arrow.
Well, yeah, if you don't aim at anything, you'll never hit anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's great that she got that hit in. That kind of saved the day.
Yeah.
You know, that's all fantastic. I have no problem with that. I mean, at first I was like, is she really going to save the day right now? Like, and not Shang-Chi? But that wasn't the deciding blow or anything. She just kind of turned the tides.
Yeah.
Which was fine. It's great. But... like, I look back, and this is why I need to see the movie again. I just don't remember him doing or speaking that much.
I think most of his story arc was more of just, like, the family matters that were going on.
Yeah, and I get that.
Because a lot of this movie is, like, a family dispute, basically.
Yeah, and it's fine, and I love all those themes. I just kind of feel like he didn't get a whole lot of screen time and a whole lot of, like, dialogue. I swear Awkwafina has more dialogue than he does. She has more lines.
She might.
I'm thinking back to the movie and I saw it, 3 days ago. I'm like, all right, what were the good scenes with him in it? The scene where he's sitting on the pond and he has a conversation with Awkwafina. And that's kind of it. After that, I'm like, oh, the fight scenes. He's
got the fight scenes.
He
has a lot of flashbacks, but that's like a different actor, but it's still him.
No, I understand. And the flashbacks were great. The storytelling was fantastic. The flashbacks are not chronological either.
No.
Which makes the storytelling even richer, I think, because you don't have to worry about it being in chronological order. You just tell what needs to be told. You know what I mean?
Based on the situation that's happening right
exactly.
now.
Yeah.
If he doesn't have that much screen time, it's not something I noticed or was bothered by.
His sister's talking to him a lot. Awkwafina's talking to him a lot. Wenwu's talking to him a lot. And he's just sitting there listening. That's kind of my issue. And then you think back to like other origin stories in the MCU. The hero has the most screen time. You think like Captain America, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel. Like they are not just the hero. They're the main character in their movie. And this is one where I'm like, I don't know, like, and I'm not saying the movie needed to be longer because it's a good length.
Just over 2 hours.
It's over, it's like 2:15 or something like that, 2:16. and it works perfectly well in that time frame. I just feel like a lot of these scenes could have let him do more. I have trouble seeing his character arc because he doesn't develop himself very much in the way the movie's written. You know what I mean?
Kind of.
I don't know.
It's just not. It's not something I had any issue with.
I'm also not sure about the music.
Oh,
I
loved the music. I thought it was really good.
I don't know if I liked it. Here's the thing. It's supposed to be like Eastern style music, right? It's supposed to be like Asian inspired. Their kind of classical music is less bombastic as ours is. Like
it's a
Western
bit more
style.
like muted.
Yes. And that's what we got. At the same time, like and maybe it's just my Western thinking, I just wanted more oomph in the score, because there was the scene where he reemerges from the water on the dragon, right? And that's like the climax.
Right.
You know, that is literally, that's the hero's journey's resurrection, right? And the music is really quiet and slow. And I'm like,
I think that makes it more emotional.
if it had a more identifiable theme, I would maybe agree with you. It reminds me a little bit of like when you see the dragons in Breath of the Wild, like music starts playing, but the music works better in that, and it makes it more kind of awesome. I mean that literally, like it's awe-inspiring. You know, like you're like, oh my god, there's a huge dragon right there, and you kind of just take it in for a second.
Right.
Or like if it was maybe a little bit more like Avatar. Like Avatar is very Eastern inspired music, but the music in that is incredible, you know?
Yeah.
And it has that oomph, and it has like that delivery that I think this kind of didn't have.
I don't know. I enjoyed the music in this movie, and I'm kind of maybe the opposite with you when it comes to like Breath of the Wild, where I thought the music in Breath of the Wild was a little disappointing, that it was so like...
It's mostly non-existent too.
And like...
But the dragon music is great.
Maybe my issue with Breath of the Wild is that I'm so used to like, oh, a Zelda game is coming out. That means it's going to have an incredible soundtrack, because Zelda always had like that bombastic music.
Well, it does have music, just not when you're like in the main world. When you're just kind of like...
It has like battle music and like...
It's situational music.
Yeah. But like in here, like I thought the music worked too. I don't know.
Like I said, I don't feel like this had like a real like leitmotif where you can recognize it and be like, this is, you know, you can hum it, for example.
Yeah. A lot of MCU movies don't, though.
A lot of them do. And
Avengers
people think that
does,
they don't. A lot of
and
them
Captain
do.
America does.
But you know what it was a lot like? It was similar enough to because we just watched it, the X-Men theme from the very end of the movie, that's what was just stuck in my head the whole time.
The X-Men music?
The X-Men music when Wolverine's up in the Statue of Liberty.
Oh.
Something else I really didn't like too, there were some bad effects in this. And I think it might have been, I'm going to cut it some slack, it might have been our theater that we watched it in. I had thought the theater might have been a little out of focus.
What effects were you...
There was a lot of like
about?
real life effects that weren't very good. Then I'm like, Marvel should have this down packed. There was like an explosion that looked really bad. There was some of the stuff on the bus that didn't look very good. And I was honestly really surprised at how like unfinished those effects looked. And then some of those creatures didn't really look like complete. Like the textures on them didn't feel very good. And I think it might have been the theater's fault. Like I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt.
The only effect that I might have any like qualm with was like the stuff that looked like airbending a little bit with the leaves and stuff. Some almost seemed a little too floaty at times, to where it's like that doesn't seem... Like, something in my brain just wasn't letting that click for me. But that's all for me.
Well, a lot of that, I think, worked for me because their style is supposed to be mystical and magical. And, like, yeah, they can kind of float and fly and shit. Which is a great contrast to, like, all the other martial arts, which is very hard-hitting and believable. Like, visceral.
It might have been that it looked so real that the physics just weren't, like... Like, my mind was like, something's not right.
Like, even some of those creatures, I was like, they could have done a little bit better, I think. Like, it didn't feel like the Marvel, like, budget, you know?
What was the budget for this movie? Did they put as much money into it as other movies?
It just didn't feel, you know what I'm saying?
Because they did say that this movie was an experiment.
Yeah, Bob Chapek was talking about, like, the 45-minute window. Like, specifically, that's what he was referring to.
Yeah. A lot of articles took it out of context. So.
Yeah. I did, too. I was like, what the fuck? Okay, so, overall, pros and cons, because I didn't just hate the movie. I actually really liked it. I really liked that there wasn't a forced love subplot in this.
Yeah. Like, they're just very good friends.
Yeah.
And if that develops into something in the future, okay. But, like, as of this movie, like, that was totally fine.
Just leave it, I feel like. You know, and especially in a movie that has a lot to do. Like, and I'm the one,
Yeah.
I'm over here complaining like, oh yeah, he didn't have enough to do or whatever. Don't also try to squeeze in like a love story, right? Like him and Aquafina's character, like I don't buy them as like a romantically interested thing. Like I honestly just think like these are two friends. Like they look like friends.
They're like best friends.
Honestly, their rapport, the way like their chemistry feels like these are just two best friends in a platonic relationship. And I'm
Which
glad
not
to
enough
see
movies do.
That's what my point.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we get to see that because I feel like part of the reason why in real life people think that they can't be friends with like the opposite sex is because they don't. Is because what we see in TV and movies that whenever you know you're shoved in a room with the opposite sex, there's sexual tension. No, there's not. Like if you're ridden in an elevator with someone, there's not. That's just
in an elevator. Man, I really want to fuck this person.
Yeah. I guess according to the plot, we're gonna end up together because we're in a scene together. No, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I like that they're just friends, and that's fine. And you don't have to read into it like that's just it. And that's why I kind of hope it doesn't develop into anything. I hope they each get their own love stories in a movie that can allow for that.
Or they can both just be alone.
Or that too. Yeah, why not? Not everybody needs one. And then in my cons, just to reiterate, music didn't work for me. It kind of worked and it kind of didn't. Some of the effects didn't seem finished. That third act, I liked it. I just didn't feel like it belonged in this movie. Or at least it was very abrupt. Also, the fighting at the end, where they're just kind of like, the whole movie, people are like killing each other. They're hard-hitting fights. And then at the end, because they're going to team up, like the Ten Rings and the Tao Lo people,
right?
The fighting didn't seem real anymore. And then they're like, hey, should we all just be friends? And they're like, yeah. That was a little quick, I think.
They kind of justified it, though, with, like, literally having that creature come and, like, immediately kill, like, the badass Ten Rings guy within, like, a second.
I meant to look that character up. Is he from the comics? He was awesome.
I'm not sure. He was cool. Definitely a cool costume.
Well, that's my point, is that it looks very comic-inspired.
Yeah, and it might be.
Shit, I forgot to look him up. Whatever. I think his name was Death Dealer.
That sounds right.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. That's how you write it.
Yeah.
But it just felt like, you know, these people they're in a cult. You know, they've been trained to follow Wenwu
right
to the end. And here they are, and they're like, all right, yeah, we can work together. Why not? Like, we haven't gotten orders from Wenwu. He's still actually trying to break in, but let's just team up. I don't know. I thought that was a bit abrupt for me. I guess not a problem for you.
Not as much. Like, I noticed it, but it didn't ruin anything for me.
Yeah. My smallest complaint also is that there were some masks in the movie. Like, some extras were, like, in masks because, like, this was filmed during COVID.
Oh.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's this kind of this selfish desire that, you know, for, like, escapism that, like, I don't want to think about COVID when I go see a Marvel movie, you know? I mean, this is not the only thing that's been made during COVID, but in other movies, like, obviously, like, when they were filming this, they have, like, separation, and they have testing, and masks offset, and the people all in front of the camera have to be, like, tested, or else the whole production shuts down. That's how movies have been. So, like...
a big pain in the ass.
Yeah. After all that, you know, just to see some of the extras still in masks, I was like, oh, no.
Was it... because I didn't notice that. Was it during the scenes while they were in Asia, though? Because they wear masks there regularly when they're sick.
I was going to bring that up, actually.
Or was it in San Francisco? Because that'd be a little bit more...
Yes. So there was in Macau.
Okay.
Club that they fight in. When they're in there, some of the extras are wearing masks. And like you said, like in Asia or in China specifically,
that's the norm.
Yeah. People wear masks all the time because they are so heavily populated, even during like flu season. A lot of people are just in masks to like stop that. And they have more epidemics than we do.
Yeah.
COVID aside. But then also at the very end, when Sai Ling, the sister, when she takes over like the Ten Rings and she's training like women and they're like fighting, some of the girls are wearing masks too.
And they're not like ninja masks?
It's not, yeah. That's my point. You could have made them ninja masks and it solves the problem.
Yeah.
They're wearing like black
medical masks.
Medical masks. And I'm like really? Like, or you could have CGI'd them off too. Like there are so many times where they CGI things off. Like
Henry Cavill's mustache.
I mean, they CG off good things though. Like, and even in the background, you wouldn't be able to tell because they're background characters. Like,
Right.
I saw a tweet when we were doing Scott Pilgrim where Edgar Wright he showed a clip of Baby Driver. Like, he's in the movie in a reflection.
And he's like, oh shit.
Yeah. And so what they did is that they CG, like, they didn't mean for that to happen. They CGI'd his monitor that he was looking at into an iPhone.
Okay.
But they left him in just for fun. But, you know, stuff like that, they still do that. In Shazam, there's a scene where they're in a shopping mall and a bunch of crew members got accidentally into the shot. So they CGI'd some shopping bags in their hands to make them look like extras, but they weren't extras. They were actually crew members.
Oh, no.
So, like, you can do stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like you can, I don't know. Or again, make them all ninja masks.
That seems like the easy way to do it.
Yeah. Don't make them look like they're, like, living COVID in the MCU. I don't want that.
Does COVID exist in the MCU?
I hope not.
COVID exists in the Assassin's Creed universe.
Does it really?
It does.
That's
in the
so
newest game, when you're
weird.
looking through emails, they're actually like talking about it.
Ew. Look, I don't want anyone to misunderstand me. I am not anti-mask at all. All I'm saying is I'm watching a piece of fiction. Like, I don't want to see it in my fiction is all I'm saying. But I think that's pretty much it. Overall, like I said, good movie. I really liked it. I don't want people to misunderstand my qualms with it. I just, a couple things here and there, a couple flaws I thought.
So you hated it.
Yeah, right.
Again, I really like this movie. I've seen it twice. I really wouldn't mind seeing it again.
I'm going to see it again soon, so.
I had a lot of fun watching it. You definitely need to see it again.
I also have a Regal pass. I can just see it however many times
you can see it,
want.
whenever the hell you feel like it. But yeah, I highly recommend it. It's a positive review for me all the way.
Yeah, no, same. Like I said, I was sold on Marvel Kung Fu, and I got Marvel Kung Fu, and I'm happy about that. It was, in that sense, fantastic. Yeah, a couple story things, a couple character things, not a big deal. Overall, really liked it.
Okay.
Apparently, one of the little fights was in homage to Jackie Chan, and I was like, it's definitely the one where he uses his jacket as a weapon.
Oh, absolutely.
And then puts it back on.
Yep.
That was fucking amazing.
That was on the bus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a Jackie Chan thing. 'Cause Jackie Chan was like, his style is using his environment. Anyway, so I guess that's it. Yeah, that's pretty much it for us, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for subscribing if you're on a platform that does that. Thanks for leaving a nice review if you do that. And if you haven't yet, please leave a nice review or a rating on Apple Podcasts. I think you can do it on Google and some other, definitely do it on Amazon. Also, thank you for telling a friend if you've told a friend. And if you haven't told a friend, please tell a friend.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you do. That's how people find the things that
Word
they
of
like.
mouth, because we don't have money for advertisements.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. But you can find us on Instagram. We're at Films from the Phantom Zone. And you can find us on Twitter at Films from PZ if you want to argue with us.
Most of our arguments have actually been on TikTok.
Yeah, we're on TikTok, and that's where people like to really pick a bone. So if you want to argue with us there, I guess you could.
Apparently, we get really worked up about these things.
We just really upset people on TikTok.
We're angry pieces. What were we called? Pieces of garbage.
Someone called us garbage.
Yeah, we're garbage.
He was mean.
It was 2 insults in the same comment.
Yeah.
It was great.
Wasn't that that guy was racist too?
I don't know if that was the same guy.
There was a guy that was like, oh, next thing you know, you guys are going to be saying that Birth of a Nation isn't a racist movie. And I'm like, it is a racist movie. What are you talking about?
It's taught in film classes that it's a racist movie.
It's the most racist movie there is.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you can definitely, if you want to take a big shit on us, you can do it there, I guess.
Yeah.
All these episodes are available on YouTube. If you want to be a part of the show, you can be. Because we record all these episodes live on Twitch. It's mostly us hanging out, having technical difficulties, checking our internet speeds,
mispronouncing things.
Oh yeah, just Googling things on the spot. But hey, if you want to be a part of that, you want to see how the sausage is made, and you want to hang out on the chat, some of that stuff ends up in the episode. So if that sounds good for you, that's on twitch.tv/filmsfrompz. We do that most Mondays. Not every Monday, but many Mondays.
Yeah,
How about that?
There was a point where we took like 3 weeks off in a row, but
yeah,
that's fine. We're still ahead.
Sometimes you need time off. Other than that, guys, that's been it. I forgot to introduce myself. My name's Arnaldo, and I'm joined by Berto. If you don't know us yet, but that's it for me. So you guys have a good week. Bye.
Bye.